Yeah, hey, how's it going? So I wanted to wax prosaic today. I just wanted to make basically I wanted to talk about work. I wanted to discuss rather broadly, well, pretty broadly, the question of work. And it's probably helpful to explain the impetus for this discussion, the impetus for taking up this topic. One is kind of it's not really personal, but that's probably the best way of describing it. The other is a more general, more objective, kind of societal impetus. But anyway, so I used to do a thought experiment. I used to propose a thought experiment. I still kind of propose it, but and it's really not a particularly interesting one. But I mean, it's somewhat revealing, and it's at least amusing. And the thought experiment is something like this. Suppose that you have a choice. You can accept an annual income of, say, I don't know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, something in that range is a guaranteed income. You can do anything you want. There are no requirements. You don't have to work. You don't have to engage in any activities. Basically, you just get $40,000, $50,000 a year. To make the healthcare is not really concerned. Maybe we assume something like healthcare. Maybe we assume kind of a basic retirement account. But like the idea, so that's the basic idea. The one condition that's placed on receiving these funds is you'll receive this money annually, these funds annually. But you have to stay in this town. You can't travel. You can't use the money to travel abroad, see the world, what have you. And so. It's meant as kind of an interesting trade-off. You want to, on the one hand, there's the security of these funds. You have free time. You can do whatever you want in your town, in the general environs. I mean, you can go on camping trips. You can go hiking around your town and so forth. Maybe you can travel within a pretty, within a reasonable area inside your home state. But yes, you can't use the funds to take off, to see the world, to travel around. So there's that basic trade-off. You have the security, you have all this free time, giving up the opportunity to see a lot of the world. And that's a question about work, right? That's a question about is it work? How work? Right? You can turn down this money. You can continue to work. You can continue to perhaps get the money you need to have the opportunity to go and see the rest of the world. So do you want that, or do you want the security of these regular funds? And it's a question about why do you work, what do you want to get from work? Is security more important to you, even with limitations, than having the additional funds that you can make working in a free market to earn more? So that's the basic question. The other reason I wanted to make a video about work is, and this is kind of a perennial question, there's kind of an ongoing this is always a question, sort of, have we reached a point where we have technology that will make not working possible? And have we reached a point where, I guess the marginal cost, right, where the cost of producing various things, right, makes it so that if you large portions of the population could simply not work, could simply opt out of laboring, opt out of working. Basically, the idea is that technology and developments, you've reached such a pitch, you have such a surplus, basic necessities are taken care of, that maybe significant numbers of people will simply stop working, and then the question is, what will they do? And so I wanted to get into this, and questions about why. Do we work? Why do we find it valuable? People do seem to find it incredibly valuable. I mean, they seem to value it for lots of reasons. They value it for themselves. People seem to like work. Right? People seem to enjoy having a job. And they seem to resist not having that, which is kind of an interesting case. I mean, I can think of lots of if you look around, you can find. I think it's not that hard to find instances of people where it's really not worth it, them having jobs. I remember reading a particular case. It was sort of the case of if you looked at someone working as a custodian, and to be clear, nothing wrong with a custodian. Right? This work has to be done. This has to be taken care of. But basically, so there was a company paying this custodian, and the cost. If you looked at it from a societal standpoint, if you looked at it from the standpoint of the company, well, I think especially from a societal standpoint, the cost of getting this person to work, the cost of having this person employed here in this capacity, it really wasn't worth it, or really wasn't worth the cost, at least societally. Now, it was good for him. He liked it, right? He enjoyed what he did, and there's a real value to that. I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. One of the questions that you have to wonder about is if you do start eliminating work, if you do start getting rid of, if you start moving away from that, moving away from people being employed, what do they do then? Right? Do people fill up YouTube with more videos? Does everyone become a poet? Because I mean, the worry is that when you're employed, you end up watching. You end up watching a lot of television, right? You don't. I mean, what you hope for is kind of a science fiction, a kind of Star Trek scenario where everyone's pursuing his or her hopes and dreams, or everyone's doing what they really love to do. The worry is that they end up watching television. Now, I don't know. I mean, that now there's things like Etsy, things like eBay, things like people making videos for YouTube, people being podcasters, people doing all these things, and I do kind of wonder a lot of times what you would really see if you did have people stop working. It's kind of fascinating to wonder about. I mean, would you have people, for example, would your neighbor start producing this beautiful artisanal furniture? Would your neighbor go crazy in the garage with his or her power tools and turn out these wonderful objects d'art, this wonderful furniture that you could buy? I mean, who knows? I mean, it might really be enriching for your life. I mean, you might really release. I can imagine a situation where large numbers of people stop working. You have just tons of fantastic craftsmen, tons of artisans all around you, and these people are not making a lot of money. They're not making a lot of They're not making a lot of additional income, but they're making something. Although, I mean, I'm not really sure that's certainly not what's important. But would that really be potentially something quite enriching for your life and for the life of those people who opt to do those things? So I mean, I think that's perhaps one consequence you might think about, or that's perhaps one. I mean, when you do think about the alternatives, that is something that you really wonder about. One of the really interesting things that I found about work, or the question about work and its value to us as a society. As I said, we do value it, and certainly Americans, we do value it, and plenty of other countries I can think of, plenty of other cultures. We do value it, we do praise it, we do respect it, we do put a lot of emphasis on it, we do place a lot of importance on it. Although one argument I've also considered, one thing that's often occurred to me, and again, this is kind of a thought experiment, in the United States of America at least, and I think probably other countries as well, I've often wondered, if you are wealthy, right? If you are genuinely wealthy, if you're quite a wealthy, or perhaps not even genuinely wealthy, but if you're wealthy, if you're relatively wealthy in the United States of America, I mean, I think there's a pretty strong argument for just giving away money to the poor, right? Just having, like, for example, an annual income. Everyone gets, I don't know, $15,000, $10,000, $20,000, no matter what. Nobody's allowed to go below that point. Now, the reason I say that is that the argument for that would be, especially for the wealthy and for other people as well, is that, look, you would get rid of, right? The argument is that what you would do to have that, or the way that you would pay for that, is you would get rid of Social Security, you would get rid of Medicare, you would get rid of Medicaid. The argument to the wealthy people, and perhaps others as well, is that, look, if you're just giving money directly to the poor, right, then you don't have to set up these government bureaucracies. You don't have to set these government agencies to oversee government aid. You don't have to do food stamps. You don't have to do Medicare, Medicaid, right? You don't have to do the Social Security Administration. You don't have to do, you don't have to pay for the IRS. Well, I mean, you still have to have tax collection, of course, right? You still have to have this redistribution to ensure that there's this guaranteed income. But you can see why it would not be nearly as expensive. The impetus for all the big government programs, or I shouldn't say all, but one of the major impetuses for using Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid to help the poor is that the argument is, look, that's the only way you're going to get those things funded. The traditional argument of the Democratic Party or the people who want these big government programs is that, look, if we make programs to help the poor, they'll be attacked and they'll get cut, and then the poor won't be helped. So we have to make a program like Social Security. Everyone gets it. It's not means tested. It's for everyone, and that's why it has support. Or Medicare, less so with Medicaid for obvious reasons, but Medicare, what the elderly get or what the older people get, everyone gets it. Right? Everyone gets this thing. So the argument to look at is really like, why don't you just give money to the poor? Right? Why not simply hand it out? Now I can see why. Although I would say, right from the conservative standpoint, it seems more attractive to me. If you're genuinely conservative in the modern American sense of that term. If you want to cut government spending, if you really want to cut back government spending, if you really want to cut back on the size of government, if you really want to eliminate these programs, just give the poor money, right? Just engage in that kind of outright redistribution and get rid of everything else. I think for the left, I think for progressives, I think probably for the Democratic Party, that's a much less attractive proposition. I mean, you probably. Well, I shouldn't say that, but I think a lot of the people I know on the progressive left, a lot of people strongly behind the Democratic Party, quite attracted to these large government programs, these large government bureaucracies, and I think would be perhaps less willing to give them up. Now, why of course that's. Yes, I mean, I understand the intuitive reaction. Look, just giving people $15,000, $20,000 a year for doing nothing, and literally that's what it would be. You would give people $20,000. You would give everyone, right, say 20 children. You would have to work out some kind of different metric or something. But I mean, sort of different. I don't know how much you would get per child, right? But yeah, you would get 15, 20,000, 10,000, whatever the case may be, dollars a year, and you could do whatever you want, or if you want to. Go surfing, if you want to go do, if you want to go paint, if you want to go do woodworking, if you want to go write poetry all day, you could do that, right? And maybe you earn some more money doing that, but everyone gets $10,000, $15,000 a year, right? Whether you work, whether you're productive, whether or not you're contributing to society, no matter what. Right? So. Is the objection that you're giving people money for doing nothing? Well, okay, but why is that an objection? And why is that something? Why would that be a problem? That might have disastrous results, and it might not. Again, we might just be flooded with people making YouTube videos like this one. It might be incredibly annoying. Who knows? But I think there is also the interesting other side. Do you want to move some people out of the labor market? And I understand all the it's a bad idea, of course, obviously, to say to try and manage the labor market, to try and take people out. You don't know how many people you're going to need. You don't know how. I have no good reason. I have no real good argument to make that we should take people out of the labor market. Although I think it's an interesting question in the United States certainly now. Look, if you seem to have and you seem arguably to be in a situation where there's a dearth of really good jobs. Now, perhaps it could be that could certainly perhaps be addressed in some ways, and perhaps training would address that, perhaps address getting qualified people to jobs. But I imagine if you're giving people $10,000, $15,000 a year for doing nothing, I mean, do some people just drop out of the labor force, and is that something you want? I mean, would that be such a bad thing? If you are, for example, really happy going to your job, you're high pressure, you're high stress, you wouldn't have to do that, but if your work is really rewarding, if you really enjoy it, would it really bother you if someone is getting $10,000 or $15,000 a year to go surfing, and by the way, not competing with you in the labor market? And that might be a real attractive benefit of that. Let me add one big caveat to the idea of giving people, of having an income, right? An automatic income that everyone gets no matter what. I don't think it would change things that much. I honestly don't think it would make that big a change. I think people would probably still work. I think people would probably still engage in the activity. I think they like it for lots of reasons. I think a lot of people's self-worth is tied up with that. And I think these are good reasons for continuing to work. And I think this makes a lot of sense. I think it's a rational, certainly a reasonable reasonable position. I mean, I think you see some of that in the kind of, among people I know who have jobs, and among people I know who have these really kind of stressed out, insane jobs, it's almost kind of a badge of honor. I mean, in an economy where a lot of people don't have jobs, although we're back to 5% employment now. I know that there are questions about how many people have dropped out. How many people have dropped out of the labor market entirely? I know there's still questions about that, but it does seem to me like it's become it's a kind of status symbol. Like, I have a job, I'm really busy, I'm psycho stressed out by this job. Not everybody is that way. I mean, there's the kind of status symbol aspect of the job. I have trouble believing that would go away if you provided a fixed income to people, for example, no matter what they do. All right, so thanks for listening. Probably in light of the Paris attacks, terrorism for the next time. But thanks for watching. Let me hear from you if you get a chance. Take care. See you around. Bye.